Okay, so we've now reached Magic Round this weekend, and it's been a very interesting season so far. Who would have thought that the Bulldogs would be the top team in the Premiership and the Panthers would be propping up the ladder at this point? But that's where we're at in the 2025 season at this point after 8 rounds. Also, in round 8 and in round 6, we saw the high shot crackdown with sin bins, especially in the last round in round 8, which we just reviewed. Let's see if that carries on in round 9, and if it does, could we have a similar controversy that we had at Magic Round a few years ago, where there were just sin bins all over the place, and for sometimes very minimal contact. We saw a lot of sin bins. It met with a lot of criticism. So let's see if that continues. Nonetheless, let's preview round 9. The Sharks Eels will be the first match on the ledger. The Sharks coming off that Golden Point defeat to the Tigers. They've been a bit inconsistent to start the season, and they didn't play particularly well against the Tigers. They really did not play well. They have been inconsistent. The Eels, the reason why the Eels are not propping up the Premiership ladder is because they had the bye last week. So let's see what happens. Let's see what the Eels dish up as well, considering they are struggling to start the season. Although Mitch Moses is back in the side, the Sharks will want a response. Craig Fitzgibbon will want a response to that defeat to the Tigers at Leichhardt. Then the Roosters Dolphins. Now the Roosters are coming off the back of a win. The Dolphins are coming off the back of a loss. It's an interesting one, this matchup. This is an interesting one. It'll be interesting to see the lineup the Roosters put out. We have seen like Chad Townsend and Dominic Young, for example, dropped from the side, and there's been a response from the team since those two players have been dropped. So that's an interesting subplot. The Dolphins were building a bit of momentum. They lost to the Raiders down in Canberra, but they are a Brisbane-based side. They're going to bring a lot of fans to Magic Round. It's going to be interesting to see how the Dolphins respond to that defeat, ending their winning streak. Both sides are having indifferent seasons, so to speak. The Dolphins and the Roosters started the season really poorly, and recently they've started to win. So I would say this is quite an even contest. Do not be surprised if the Dolphins get one on the Roosters here. They've done it before up in Brisbane, where they've unsettled them and got under their skin and surprised them before. So this is a really interesting clash. It's a good tester to see where both sides are at. Plus the Roosters aren't at full strength either. They have got a lot of injuries at the moment. So this is a real test for both sides to see where they're both at. The Rabbitohs and the Knights, these are two sides that are on losing streaks right now. Have the Bunnies, I know they've got injuries, but has the steam run out on their hot start to the season? The Knights, their season's falling apart rapidly, and Adam O'Brien is a coach under a lot of pressure. This is also a test to see where both sides are at following losing streaks, and the Knights haven't won since round 2, so this is a really interesting matchup. The Bunnies are in a rebuilding season under Wayne Bennett, but more was expected of the Knights, and they are really underperforming. Their attack is really, really struggling in recent weeks. They've been held to nil a couple of times, so it's an interesting one. The Bunnies are obviously coming off the back of that narrow loss to the Storm, but they have got some injury issues and some selection headaches for Wayne Bennett. So that's going to be an interesting one. The Warriors Cowboys, two teams in form. It's going to be interesting, this one. This is going to be a real test to see where both sides are at. The Cowboys are coming off a 50-point win against the Titans. The Warriors handled the Knights quite easily down in Christchurch. The Warriors, though, a lot of travel there. There's a lot of travel there for the Warriors. The Cowboys, just down the coast from North Queensland to Brisbane from Townsville. It's going to be an interesting one, as both sides are in form. I think this could be quite an entertaining game. And it's also going to be a litmus test to see where the Cowboys are at, because they did have that slow start to the season, and where the Warriors are at, because while they lost in Vegas, they've responded well to defeats so far this season. They've won some tight games. They are a dark horse in my opinion. Both sides, I think, are in a good place right now. This is a real fun test, and Todd Payton's obviously previously coached the Warriors. Now he's coaching the Cowboys. This is a real test to see where both sides are at. It's going to be a fun one, I think. It could be high scoring, could be low scoring, but I think it's going to be a fun one. The Warriors are short of troops in certain areas, though. They still have a lot of players injured, and they're still winning, which is a sign of a good side. The Tigers Dragons. I think this is going to be quite an even contest. I think both sides are around roughly equal. Of course, the Tigers are still dealing with the Lachlan Galvin contract saga, and whether that's going to derail the Tigers' season. Although it's back in the side and they win the game, so against the Sharks. Dragons coming off the back of that really poor defeat to the Roosters, where they just fell apart in the second half. But both sides, looking at their seasons, are about equal. They're about equal. They're a little bit inconsistent. They have some good flashes and some bad flashes, although the Tigers are playing a lot better this season than they were last season and in previous seasons with those 3 wooden spoons. They are much improved. The Dragons are much improved as well. It's just getting that consistency, which is where the Dragons are lacking somewhat, is that consistency as a unit going forward. But I think this is going to be quite an even contest. Could be another golden point contest as well. The Titans Bulldogs. The Titans coming off the back of a 50-18 defeat to the Cowboys. The Bulldogs, how many players are they going to be missing through suspension following sin bin gate, as we will call it? This is where the crackdown in the last round and all these sin bins, some of them for really not that bad offences. The Bulldogs are going to be missing a lot of players, so their lineup is going to be much changed. The Titans, they need a response. Their season is fast unravelling as well. The Bulldogs, they want to just bounce back to winning and maintain their really solid start to the season. This is the best start to the season they've had since 1938. So, and that year they won the comp. So the Bulldogs want to get back to winning ways as soon as possible, but their lineup is going to be much changed because of all the suspensions that they're going to be faced with dealing with, and some injuries as well. So the Bulldogs, it's going to be interesting what lineup they put out and who they promote from reserve grade and New South Wales Cup, for example, into their starting lineup. These suspensions do give some players a chance at running the side. So it'll be interesting to see who's going to part Sexton in the halves, with Burton looking likely to get a suspension. And I think the Bulldogs will have too much for the Titans. I think the systems that the Bulldogs have, their defence is really good. They're really confident side. Just that one defeat to the Broncos so far. It's going to be an interesting one. The Panthers Broncos. The Broncos coming off the back of a really dominant win over the Bulldogs. Admittedly, sin bin assisted, although the Bulldog, although I think the Broncos had a player in the bin as well. Panthers, they are in disarray. The Panthers are in disarray. I think their season is a write-off at this point. It's going to be interesting to see what changes Ivan Cleary makes to the Panthers. He's got to do something. They need to do something. That was a bit of a disappointing defeat to the Sea Eagles at home. They are struggling. They are struggling to figure out what's going wrong there. The Broncos have had a bit of an up and down season, so to speak. They've had some really good performances and they've had some indifferent performances. The win against the Bulldogs was really good, but the defeat against the Warriors was pretty average. So it's going to be interesting to see how they approach a wounded Panthers side. And the Panthers could be dangerous. They could pull something out the hat in this game. But I think the Broncos, with how the form is going and how both sides are trending, I think the Broncos are favourites for this one. The Panthers need to figure something out. Defensively, their systems are starting to break down. In attack, when they get it flowing, it looks good, but defensively, their defence is not at the level that has won them 4 premierships and got them to 5 grand finals in a row. Something's gone a bit wrong where the personnel might have changed, but the system hasn't. So is it the inexperience of some of the younger players that have come in? Is it the mileage on the bodies? Are some players not playing fully fit? There's a lot of questions there with the Panthers so far this season. And the final match, which I think could be a real litmus test of the Premiership favourites and Premiership dark horses, is the Storm Raiders. And the Raiders have a really good record against the Storm in recent years. Ricky Stewart has a very good record against Craig Bellamy when it comes to head-to-head. And in recent seasons, the Raiders have played some classics against the Melbourne Storm. Now, the Storm defeat the Rabbitohs, yes, but they've had some flat performances in a couple of defeats this season. The Storm aren't looking as invincible as people would have you believe. There are some weaknesses in the Storm side, and they've got injuries. Yes, the Storm do have some injury concerns with players, which is an interesting one. They do have some issues in the outside backs especially. There's a lot of injuries there. The Raiders, I mean, the way the Raiders are playing this season, they look fit, they look motivated, they are a dark horse, they're on a winning streak. Now, yes, the Storm are coming off the back of a win against the Bunnies, but it wasn't overly convincing, and that defeat against the Dolphins highlights some concerns with this Storm side that I think, with the way they've started the season and some of the wins they've had, are papering over the cracks. And the Raiders and the Storm, this will be a good test for both sides to see where they're at after 9 rounds. It's going to be a fun game, and as I say, Ricky Stewart and the Raiders do have a really good recent record against the Storm in key games, in crunch games, be it regular season or finals. So that is a good way to end Magic Round. Of course, Women's State of Origin Game 1 is the curtain raiser for Magic Round, and we can do a separate preview on that once we get the full starting lineups announced. We do know the squads for State of Origin Game 1, but when the starting lineups are announced, that's when we can really delve in and start to break down and dissect the Women's State of Origin Game 1. The Sea Eagles have the bye this week, and that's, coming off the back of a win. That gives them a rest week, and that there are some injury and fitness concerns for some of the Sea Eagles players as well. So there we go. There is round 9 previewed. Let's see if this sin bin crackdown continues. If it does, then I think a video is going to be coming your way in regards to the sin bin crackdown, because I think it's not gone down well with a lot of ex-players, current players, coaches, media and fans. Fans are left bemused and frustrated with these sin bin crackdowns. What we saw in the pre-season was a crackdown on the play the ball. And we knew that was going to be an area where there was a rule tweak and that the referees would be looking at. And so far, they have been consistent in that area. This high shot crackdown, as I say, round 6, they had a mini crackdown. Round 7, not so much action taken with high shots. Round 8, massive crackdown. And it's all because in round 5, some decisions were missed. Some sitters were missed in regards of the officiating was poor. And we could argue the standard of NRL officiating, there have been some missed calls. There have been some blunders made by the on-field officials and the bunker, which has led to some reshuffling of the deck, so to speak, in regards to NRL officials and who's refereeing what games, who's running the touchline on what games, and who's in the bunker for what games. So there we go. There's Magic Round preview. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section below, and I will have some more content for you all very, very soon.